to be involved.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me.
You know, and that's, you know, the zoning, I've told many people that this is an important, more so than any, you know, you're the one guiding
Catch up with this computer.
what's this community is gonna look like and be.
Yeah.
Proving it or not. You know, that's working. Clint running it from remote. Looks like John's there. No, I'm afraid not. And that's Bob Latchins, whoever that is. Eric. Can you hear me, Clint?
Guys, this is Matt Hogg. This is Ashley, she's also new. That's Jerry, the mayor.
Yes. Jerry?
City clerk.
Okay, that was a test.
He just likes coming to meetings.
Ooh,
Rosie.
yep, we do. We get paid so much, that's the,
Well, Jerry, we're working on that, okay, buddy?
no, oh, that's right, that was a bad comment. John,
Position was unpaid for all time. We're working on changing that. We have a seat right here.
All right, man.
You familiar with Zoom? Zoom, yeah.
Use it a few times a day.
Okay, well, then maybe you can find easier how to change your name. Mine always the way it is. You got the report right there.
yeah, Michael Whitmer.
Right on, thank you.
My mic is on all the time.
I'm sorry. I probably, is this me?
I'm actually gonna have you close out of there. Leave the meeting. We're gonna have everything up there on that one.
Okay, no, it's fine. All right. All right, sounds good.
Hello?
Hello? There's Mr. McCraft. Mr. Hall,
Yes.
I can't see from my vantage, but it looks like that we're still waiting for the manager, and I'm not sure if Ms. Johnson is available or not.
Miss Johnson is present.
Okay.
Mr. Max has stepped out.
Oh, there we are.
He's on.
Okay. Are we all ready so I can get this started? Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I can see a flag on the main feed there from Ms. Johnson's feed. If you want to aim for that. And if you'd like to unmute yourself so that I don't have to do this all by myself, that's great too. So. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That is hard to do over Zoom. Okay, so getting started here. We'll start with roll call. Mr. Conley, I'm here. Mr. Hall,
Here,
She wanted to do it all, just everybody here.
I'm sorry.
continue.
Mike was asking us a question. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Mr. McGrath,
Here.
Mr. Nixon,
Here.
Ms. Hamill,
Present.
and Mr. Hogg.
It's Hogue. Yes.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda would be the recognition of planning officials, engineering, or legal representation. It's my understanding that the city planner is not available tonight.
That's correct.
Okay. And there's no engineers or legal representation here tonight.
Just me.
Okay. Then Mr. Womack, city manager. So what I'll need next is a motion to approve the minutes from October 6th, our last regular meeting.
So move.
Second.
So has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes? Are there any changes that need to be made or any suggestions? Not hearing any. All in favor of approving the minutes from October 6th, 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, the agenda. We have to approve tonight's agenda. There were a couple issues, one that I got notified about on the agenda about some date typo was one of them. And I thought that I found another one. So if you look at your agenda, it's on, well, page 1, obviously, in the packet. It shows that tonight's meeting is Monday, December 14th, when it's actually December 29th. So that probably should be amended before we accept this. And I'm also noticing that at the bottom, in the running footer at the bottom, it says 10/6/2020 agenda. And that probably is not what we want on there. Beyond that, Mr. Womack, I noticed in the packet, there was a collection of material on property on Oak Street, but I don't see any mention of it in the agenda. So I wanted to clarify if we're doing anything with that tonight.
Do you have a street or a place in the packet for me to look?
It was pages 11 through 15 in the packet on garage and Oak Street.
So Ms. Wolf did submit to me a public comment. It wasn't this, I don't think. So I probably meant to put her public comment at this location, and for some reason got this previous submission by her. Let me take a look at it as we move through the meeting, and I'll correct that.
But there's nothing in there that we have that was intended to be done tonight, so I don't need to add it to the agenda.
Correct, and I believe I did forward her public comment to the board members previously. So let me just double check and see about that public comment. And but you're correct, nothing needs to be added.
Okay. So any other? Does anyone else have anything that they found with tonight's agenda?
My name is Ley for an amendment.
Ah, well, I'm sorry. Then I probably mispronounced your name when I said it.
Oh no, it's fine, Ashley. That's common.
Okay. Anything else that needs to be addressed on the agenda before we approve it? Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Have we done that yet? Did I skip over that part? Okay.
I'll motion to approve as amended. I'll second.
All in favor of approving the agenda this evening with those amendments, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. This is time then to move on to public comments. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns tonight. This is the only time during the meeting that citizens will be allowed to address the planning commission. Although I would like to also address that you would also have another opportunity during the public hearing. If there is something regarding the public hearing, please state your name and address for the record if you would like. So that any public, I'm sorry, Mr. Nixon.
Ex parte communication,
That comes after the public comments.
does it?
Yes.
Okay, full checking.
So any general public comments before we move forward?
Mrs. Powell.
I can't hear Mrs. Powell.
Neither can I. I'm not sure if Ms. Powell knows that she can't be heard. Can someone make sure that she knows it?
We're working on that now.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here tonight to welcome Mr. Hoag, Ms. Hamel. Welcome. And I hope you enjoy the Planning Commission as much as I enjoy watching it. And it's just very important for me to be educated because a lot of the decisions you make affect our council and the decisions and the votes that we have to make. I'll just let you know, my whole family, we are Red Hawks. My husband and I and our 3 children graduated from Cedar Springs. I have 2 wonderful, hardworking daughters and a son, all Red Hawks and red flannel to the bone. We all are. The other thing I wanted to tell you is when I think about what kind of shape this city was in 6 years ago, it just amazes me to see the difference and how far we've come to improve our community, our mindset, our values, and just everything about the city that has changed. And that's because I think we've all worked together with respect and decency. And also Mr. Mike Womack has made a huge difference in his professional and knowledgeable leadership of our city and every direction we've taken. We don't always agree, but he's the man that really knows and understands the law that we have to abide by. And sometimes we have to change that law. But anyway, thank you. You'll see me often, I hope. And I always enjoy coming to these meetings, and I hope you enjoy them too. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Mrs. Powell would be on the planning commission, but there's only allowed 1 seat from the council, and unfortunately, it's me. Thank you, Ms. Powell. Go ahead, Mrs. Conley.
Any other public comments before we move on?
Ms. Johnson, would you like to call out the members of the public that you see online?
There you go.
Or should I, Mr. Conley?
If you don't mind, otherwise I can from here.
However, it works logistically best there. I'm fine with.
We
Okay.
have a Lori Fisk. Lori
Hi,
Fisk.
I have no comment. I just came for the public hearing for the special land use on 40 East Elm.
Okay. Bob McLaughlin. Any public comment? Bob McLaughlin.
I'm just monitoring the meeting just to see if there's any audio issues. So I'm just kind of sitting in the background watching.
Sounds great. Eric, any public comment?
Yes, hi, Eric Brandt. I'm here on the 40 Elm Street, East Elm Street matter 2, representing the property owner Betty Towns.
Michael Whitmer.
Hi, I'm here for the rezoning on 233 South Main Street.
And I do not see any others for right now.
Okay. Then we will close the public comments and move on to conflicts of interest and ex parte communication. If any member of the Planning Commission has a conflict of interest to disclose or has conducted any ex parte communication about any business that's before us today, this is your opportunity to let us know. Mr. Nixon.
I will not be taking part in the 40 East Elm decision, and I will excuse myself from that. So if I need to leave the room, I will, but I will not be taking part in that. I don't know.
It is difficult in the Zoom era to understand exactly how you leave the room, but I'll ask Mr. Womack, when it comes time, it's asked like Mr. Nixon is asking for a recusal when we get to that point. Is that something that we have to decide as a planning commission whether it's okay for his recusal, or does he just make that declaration himself?
No, my understanding is that he simply declares that he has a conflict of interest and that he wishes to recuse himself. The mechanism for somebody recusing themselves when they maybe ought not to probably stands with the city council, not with the planning commission.
Okay. As far as how you remove yourself from the conversation, Mr. Nixon, in my opinion, if it being Zoom, if you just turn off your mic and your camera, to me that seems sufficient that you're not communicating anything to us. Okay. Anything from any other members of the Planning Commission? Okay. Moving on to the public hearings. We have 3 public hearings scheduled tonight. And in order to clarify for everyone involved, this is the opportunity for public addressal of the Planning Commission regarding these issues. We'll be taking the hearings in succession. There's 3 of them. You'll have your opportunity to speak on them. If you are a representative or a party in this issue, of course, you'll have the opportunity to speak during the actual new business. We'll be asking you things as well during that. So it's up to you how you choose to address that. If you want to say something in the public hearing, you're allowed to, but you will have your opportunity to speak when your particular issue comes up. So with that being said, the first public hearing is a public hearing for an ordinance amendment on the proposed ordinance is to amend Chapter 40, Article 3, Division 13, Section 4409, entitled Commercial and Industrial Side and Rear Setback Reductions of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Cedar Springs. The proposed change would reduce the side and rear setbacks in the B3, HC, and I1 districts. I'd like to move to open that public hearing. And Mr. Womack, could you give just a brief description of what this is about so that the people that may want to comment on it have an idea of what's happening here?
Sure. So along the 17-mile corridor specifically, but there are other locations in the city where this might become an issue. We have allowed buildings and development to occur in 2 different locations, adjoining the road and then further back off the road. The Tractor Supply Company and Family Farm and Home would be the rear developments, and then buildings like the McDonald's and the Advance Auto would be the front facing developments. The problem is that under the ordinances, the setback requirement is 40 foot in the rear of each of these buildings. And so there is a problem when you have a 40-foot rear setback on the front developments and a 40-foot front setback on the rear developments. So you end up having an 80-foot distance between those 2, which I don't think is absolutely necessary. So this is simply an opportunity for the board to review something that might give more flexibility. Now, this is an ordinance I drafted myself because it's a fairly complicated topic. I wouldn't feel comfortable with the Planning Commission passing this immediately. I bring it to you guys at this point for discussion, whether you guys want to pursue it at all. And then if we do want to continue pursuing it, I would probably want to take it to the city attorney for further review.
Okay. So this is the opportunity for, or this is an opportunity for the members of the public, if they have an opinion on this ordinance, to make their voices heard. Does anyone have any public comment on this?
Yes, there should be one. There should be one.
I guess I got to talk up here.
Okay, Ms. Powell?
When we think about these buildings and how they were originally designed, especially as at the family farm and home with the huge parking lot out front, which was necessary for that building at the time. Now they are sitting on a lot of valuable property that's basically undeveloped. And there should be a way that they can develop that property. I don't know what it is at this point, but you guys will have to figure it out. The Tractor Supply was also a huge parking lot developed and really never utilized by that business. And I can see where they're sitting on a lot of valuable property that could maybe be developed into more uses. And whatever, I think the planning commission can help with that, setbacks, whatever. I think it's a great idea. And if I was owner of those buildings, I'd be wanting to be able to develop them myself too. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Mr. Womack, I don't know if we need to do a roll call for the other members that are not the other members of the public that are here. I can see everybody. Well, I can see a couple of members of the public. I can't see the other two. We could ask the other two if they have any comments on this, and then those that can be seen could signify one way or the other. However you'd like to do it.
Well, Mr. Conley, each member spoke already and indicated that they had a preference for one thing that they wanted to speak about. So maybe at least for this one, we could just ask if any member of the public has a comment, would they speak up now or forever hold their peace?
I am fine with that. Ditto on what Mr. Womack said. If you have anything you'd like to add that came in your mind since then, do so now. Otherwise, we will move on. Okay. Not hearing any, we'll close this public hearing and move on to our next public hearing for the evening. The next public hearing is on a proposal to rezone a single property. The property owner for 233 South Main Street is seeking to rezone parcel number, and that's a long parcel number, but it's the 233 South Main Street. Mr. Womack, would you like to describe for us what is entailed with this for the public?
Sure. As the Planning Commission will remember, almost 2 years ago, we undertook a significant rezoning of the entire city. And we did identify a number of properties that we thought would benefit, or the city would benefit from rezoning. I did approach the church at that time and suggested to them that they might benefit from a B3 rezoning. And they decided not to pursue it at that time, but recently they have decided that maybe it is in their best interests. So my understanding is that this is primarily about signage. So the church intends to remain a church, although I think I might have heard rumors that they might change the name of the church. Hence, maybe why they need to have larger signage. So the city kind of concurrently with the rezoning effort did basically completely change the signage ordinance. And the church is currently an R1 property, so their maximum signage is, I think, 24 square feet or something very small. Whereas if the property were to be rezoned as B3, now they could have up to, I think, 100 square feet of ground sign signage. In addition, the wall signs and all the other signage that comes along with it. So that's my understanding. I do not believe that there's any intention to change this to a business of any kind. But of course, the Planning Commission does have to be cognizant of the fact that the zoning change will be permanent. And there is the theoretical possibility that at some point in the future that a business could take over the building or property. But I guess I'll let other people speak to that.
Okay. So I know that Mr. Whitmer indicated that he wanted to speak on this tonight. You can speak during the public portion, or you can wait until we discuss this as part of new business later. That's up to you.
I just say I'm the pastor of the church, and we changed our name from First Baptist Church to Cedar Springs Baptist Church. So very small name change. And yes, we all we want is a bigger sign, and we intend to be a church in perpetuity.
Okay. Any other public comment on for the public hearing on this particular issue? Okay. Hearing none, I'll close the hearing. And we'll move on to the last public hearing on our agenda tonight. This is a public hearing for a special land use for the property owner at 40 East Elm, Cedar Springs, parcel number 41033031211. They would like to request a special land use for the 2-family housing unit that does not have Main Street frontage. It already exists in the B2 district. Mr. Womack, again, if I have a brief description of this, I know we'll be going over this during the actual new business in detail, but just so that the people in the public know what we're referring to here.
Sure. And I just want to comment that I did check the publicly accessible packet, and the Wolf letter does appear in that packet. So we don't have any issues with her public comment not being available.
Okay.
So the city is an old city. We've got lots of houses that have kind of intermixed with commercial districts through the years. And the current zoning for the B2 zoning district allows for single family and duplex homes to exist so long as they don't have Main Street frontage. The law, however, requires that they be special land uses, not permitted by right. And of course, normally these things are written with a mind towards new buildings, not old buildings. However, the city's kind of stuck in a position where we don't know if these buildings ever got special land uses. The clerk has looked through her records. She can find no records of it having ever had a special land use. And so for our purposes, we treat it as though it has no special land use. Now, nonconformity means that they can continue to use that property into the future. But banks and insurance companies tend not to want to mortgage a property or insure a property if it's non-conforming. So while the city is doing nothing to prevent the sale of a property that is like this, the banks and the insurance companies do. So the Planning Commission has traditionally taken these up, reviewed the use, and then approved of the special land use. If the property were given a special land use, that use could be continued indefinitely into the future up until such time as they abandon the use. So if the 40 East Elm Street were to burn down after a special land use were granted, they could rebuild it as a duplex, which is what its current use is. So the Planning Commission needs to review this using the special land use rules. And they do have the authority to require certain changes to minimize the effects of a duplex on the district. So we can get into a little bit more detail during the actual thing.
Okay, so excuse me. I'm sorry, I didn't. You said your last name earlier, and I didn't get it right. What was that again, Mr. Eric?
Yes, I need to fix my Zoom here. It's Brandt, B-R-A-N-D-T.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Would you like to comment now, or would you like to wait until we actually discuss this?
Whatever your preference is, I can wait till new business.
We can get deeper in at that point. So you have every opportunity to make your comments at that time. Is there anyone, other members of the public, that have any comment on this issue tonight?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then, Mr. Womack, you stated that there was a letter from, I believe, from Sue Wolf attached to this.
Yep, that's correct. So I'm looking at it. It's on the city's website. It's listed as page 27 in the packet that's uploaded on the website. I can read it if you'd like.
The planning commission members can read it if they would like, if someone wants it to be read, that's fine. Did Ms. Wolf ask that it was read in public?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so if it's available and the planning commission members have had it and they want it and they've read it, then that's fine with me, unless someone requests that we read it.
I would only indicate that Ms. Wolf's final intention is, quote, "I would ask that you grant the special use for this property."
Okay. Any other additions to the public hearing? Okay, not hearing any, I'll close the public hearing. And we will move on to new business. So new business brings us back to, this would be 10A on page 28 for planning commissioners or those that have the packet in front of them. This is regarding the approval or denial of the ordinance regarding the setbacks in the industrial and commercial zones that Mr. Womack was talking about earlier. Was it my understanding, Mr. Womack, that this was that we need more on this before you're willing to go much farther?
Yes, but if you'll grant me a couple minutes, I'll just share my screen real quick and kind of show you what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
So if everybody can see my screen here now. So as I indicated before, we've got development going on. This is the family farm and home building. This is the Dollar General, I think it is. And we have a tractor supply company. We then also have, I believe, the Burger King right there. There's the independent bank. There's the McDonald's. There is the Advance Auto. So we've allowed, and many cities do this, we have allowed a development back here with huge parking lots, as Ms. Powell indicated, that never ever get used. And then you start allowing development in the front. Well, I think that the rear setback that you can kind of see here, nobody ever parks back here. McDonald's does get used, although nobody ever parks here. And of course, they've got their ATMs there. But I think it's kind of an unnecessary feature in some regards. And I think that site development could go in such a way that they don't need to have that much rear setback. For example, if you look at this lot here, for whatever reason, the rear setback line, the rear property line is right there. Now, I could comment about how stupid that was, but it exists the way it is. And having a 40-foot rear setback there really makes this property here quite undevelopable, at least in a financial sense. And then same thing can be said up here. And in the future, if the back half here gets developed, we could probably see some benefit there. So it's something for us to consider for the future. Like I said, I kind of just put the language together quickly. So I'm not sure if it works. I'm not sure. Maybe the attorneys have something better to add to it. But at the very least, I'd like to know if there's something the Planning Commission would like to hear more on, or if it's dead in the water.
Well, what say you, Planning Commission? Do the members of the Planning Commission have any opinion on this one way or the other?
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Originally, when Advanced Auto was put in, we required them to do that setback in the back for a crossed access from the property immediately east and eventually would connect to the property to the west. So they would eliminate some driveways on 17 Mile Road.
Okay. Mr. Nixon?
Now, what I've seen Gary, at Advance, is there is a cutout in the front to access, but there's not a cutout in the back.
Yes, they didn't require them to do it on the front. That was put in for eventually future, but the rear, there was a request for a cross-access easement there.
Now, to the east, I can see that. I'm kind of curious how, and again, Mr. Womack, I don't know if you have the aerial view to put back up because I'm kind of trying to do this from memory at the moment. But I'm not sure how a back drive would line up across into that next property, if such a thing exists.
Do you mean the property to the east of the Advance Auto?
No.
Are you talking to me or Mr. Hall?
I guess whoever it was that was asking the question. So we should keep in mind that this property here, which is 4233 and 4243, which would be between the Advance Auto and the Taco Bell, this will become the county complex.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have the sheriff's department and a Kent County Health Department building on this property.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to want to allow development here, but we almost certainly would want to have a cross-access easement maybe here. But this is kind of unrelated to the present situation. What I'm talking about is an ordinance that gives the Planning Commission more flexibility in approving of site plans that may not be able to meet the rear and side setbacks. So one of the things I'd mentioned before on this ordinance is that there's a 40-foot rear setback. This ordinance would allow it to be reduced to up to half of that, so 20 foot. And Planning Commission might even say that that doesn't go far enough. Maybe the Planning Commission thinks we should have total authority and flexibility to go down to as little as 0. I don't know. But that's kind of what I'm talking to you guys for, is where do we want to go with this? Do we want to go anywhere with this? Or do I just shelve it?
I can definitely see a situation where we may want to go this direction, but as you kind of alluded to before, it seems like it could be quite complex as far as how to grant the relief in a specific way for specific properties that might need it without binding ourselves to something we didn't intend on other properties.
I agree.
Well, and the Planning Commission members have been through this before. Developers always want to take a mile when you give them an inch. And you're right, it's difficult to navigate it in such a way as to kind of limit this type of flexibility when everybody's asking for it. Because ultimately, people are not going to want to be bound by a rule if there's some way of getting out of the rule. Because if you can build your building 20 feet longer and wider, that building has now got, 400 or 500 more usable square feet of retail space that they can rent out. So that's my biggest fear. I'm less concerned about the actual setback because this is a prime example. This is a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 5 foot or 40 foot, I don't think this rear part of it's really going to be used any differently.
Right.
But I also don't think that the developer should be just given a larger building because they can build another 20 feet north.
Right.
So I think it's more of a developers are going to try to take advantage of the situation. And the Planning Commission is then going to be put into a position of being the bad guy in reviewing it as a special land use and denying it because the developer wants what they want and we don't think it meets the standards.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I believe we just went through that with O'Reilly there on that same site. Was they wanted a bigger building on that footprint and it just didn't fit.
Well, and we're not talking about past transgressions. We're talking about the future. And of
Correct.
course, we can always learn from the problems we've had with one property to try to alleviate those problems in the future. Of course, I'll hear about it, but that doesn't mean that the planning commission can't have some flexibility in the front to try to get some of these properties developed and developed in a good way.
I only have 9 months left on this, so I'm just trying to help you all.
I would be interested in seeing what options we have, but as long as you can navigate with assistance from the city planner and the city attorney, something that can alleviate some of the concerns there about applicability to other properties, then I'd be willing to consider it.
Well, in that case, we should probably table this. I know Mr. Johnson was out of town, which is one of the reasons he's not here. I'm sure his advice would be valuable in this situation. So we might want to table this to the January 12th meeting at the very least and continue discussion.
Planning commissioners, do you have any more you'd like to say on this, or I take a motion to table if someone would like to do that? Mr. Nixon?
Mike, could you look into possibly adding a caveat to these places where we would be able to say what goes in, like what they do with that extra space instead of a building, making sure that there's extra room?
Yeah, so the ordinance as it's currently written, if I can bring it up real quick. It very specifically says that if the planning commission were to grant this type of request, that in exchange for that, let's see here, the planning commission may require an increased minimum side setback on the non-reduced side yard. And may require the installation of curbing, screening, green belts, landscaping, physical or visual barriers, traffic control devices, sidewalks, retention ponds, or other installations related to the mitigation of effects upon the aesthetics or safety of the reduced yard setback. So I kind of had that in there already, but that's a good idea.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree on that. If we could somehow write an ordinance that would work for the planning commission and the future developers of those sites to help fit a building in there so it looks attractive to the community in general, something like that, I would like to see that.
Thank you. My biggest concern is the effect on the property owner behind this property or similar properties like that, that as we allow whatever development that might happen on these properties, if we create this leniency in the setback, are we infringing upon the ability of the other property owner behind them to fully use their property?
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
On your comment, exactly, Farm and Home owns the property in front of their business, where Farm and Fleet, they rent that building, and there was ongoing litigation on their storage area with a future strip mall that they wanted to put in, the owners did, so that could cause some real conflicts.
So Mr. Womack, if you can write the perfect ordinance, then I'm sure we'd be happy to look at it.
I've been trying, it eludes me still, but at the very least, let's push this to the January 12th meeting and we'll keep working on it, just like everything else we do.
Okay. Do I have a motion to table this at this point?
So
I'll make the motion.
Do
I'll
we have a
second that.
Oh. Okay, all in favor of tabling this motion till we get some more information on it, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, moving on. The next order of business today, next thing that we have to consider is 10B under new business. This is on page 31 of your packet. Motion to recommend the city council, I'm not making the motion yet, but we're considering the approval denial of the 233 main rezoning request. So we had a little bit from Mr. Womack on this. I'm not sure if you have any more you'd like to add, or if we could go to the applicant. Who would like to speak on this?
I can say that we would like to put a sign.
I'm sorry, could you identify yourself?
I'm sorry. This is Mike Whitmer, the pastor of Cedar Springs Baptist Church, the applicant. Yeah, right in the corner of 17 Mile and North End Drive. We like to put a sign in the parking lot there, so our church is more visible, and it'll be a nice, probably electronic sign, so something that will be nice and attractive in the community.
Okay. And Mr. Womack, what kind of what do we need to do in order to be able to approve that, or to make a determination one way or the other on this?
So this is fairly straightforward. All you would need to do is make the motion to the council that you recommend that we approve of their rezoning request, and then it would go to the city council for approval or denial at that point. I would point out one thing, I guess 1.5 things. So, you know, I like the idea that this would remain a church forever and ever, but we have to foresee unforeseen possibilities. And I originally, thank you, Mr. Mayor, had forgotten that there was a driveway here, which fronts along 17 Mile Road. Now, for a commercial business, that could be problematic, and we'd probably want to have that driveway fixed, mostly because of left-hand turning traffic going in with a turn lane there. And then furthermore, this entrance into this parking lot on 2nd Street would be problematic for a commercial business. And at some point, we'd probably want to make that employee-only parking or something, if it were a commercial business, because we don't want to have these citizens who have residential homes having to deal with commercial traffic. But other than that, I don't see any other problems. Yeah, specifically, if it remains a church, for the signage purposes, it makes sense.
Mr. Womack, in the unforeseen circumstances that, you know, a number of years in the future, there was an attempt to turn this into a more conventional business, would we have the opportunity to address those items at that time, or would we be bound with what we approved today?
So the only thing that you guys are recommending today is that this be changed to a B3 zoning property. Now, you guys have been through the table of uses many times, so you guys know that any of the businesses that are permissible by right or special land use under the table of uses could, at that point in the future, be placed on this property. I don't recall off the top of my head, but one of the uses that's permissible under the B3 zoning district is a landscaping business. We did that for preferred landscaping. We did that for, the other one escapes me at the moment, but those are both in the B3 zoning district. So is that something we want to allow to operate here at this location? I don't think it's a great idea, not with the single family residential homes immediately next door. But I suspect if it were to sell, this would be a very valuable property. And I don't think any landscaping business is going to want to purchase this property. If anything, this would become a high value location, in my opinion. But yeah, the only thing that you guys are doing today is recommending to the city council approval or denial.
Okay. Do we have any other questions, Mr. McGrath?
I was just going to say I'm in favor of recommending it to change to B3. I think it's a good idea.
Would you like to make a motion on that and we can discuss after your motion is made, or?
Sure, I'll make a motion to move this property to the B3 zoning district.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion we'd like to have on this? Mr. Nixon?
I just want to make sure that the church does stay within the lighting ordinance for the signage if they're talking about putting up a computer generated sign. So we don't get too bright of a sign, especially right there at that very busy intersection. And it lights out the intersection.
So my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Womack, is that this is a preliminary step in that direction. Should they want to put in another sign, that we still have a process involved before any signage would actually be installed.
Yeah, so this is totally, well, partially unrelated to the sign that they would have to, in a future time, get an application approved of by the zoning administrator. But I don't recall, oh, see, I'm still sharing my screen. I don't recall exactly whether digital signs are permitted in the B3 district or not. I thought they were only permitted in the HC district. But, you know, I understand that the church at the very minimum wants a larger sign. So the property owner will be able to have any legal sign that's permitted under the sign ordinance. That's, I guess, all I can say on that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Well, hearing none, we have a motion on the table to approve. I guess I'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries. So we are recommending to the city council a change of zoning in that property. Okay, moving on to item C, 10C on our new business. Concerning 40 East Elm Street and a special land use. I would, Mr. Womack or Mr. Brandt, I'm not, whoever would like to take us through this, I'd be happy to listen to either one of you.
I've spoken enough. I'm sure Mr. Brandt would be happy to talk for a little while.
Okay.
Thank you. So yes, the property owner is before you to seek a special use permit for the reasons, you know, that Mr. Womack had mentioned. And another one is just, yeah, there has been no special use permit that has been granted in the past. The family has owned this property since at least 1978, and it's been used as a duplex all those years. So I think it predates the applicable zoning provisions, but she is in the process of selling it, and as memories fade and so forth, it would be nice to have a document, a special use permit, than something more than just history of what the land use has been and how long it's been used as a duplex.
Okay. Mr. Womack, do we have, what requirements are there in order for her to do that? And are we in agreement about whether they meet those requirements?
Yep. So this one can be approved of by the planning commission. There's no need to recommend anything to the city council. So you guys can finalize this tonight if you would like to. But I would indicate two things. You know, this is a special land use, and while typically special land uses are meant to prevent intense uses from going into a less intense zoning district, it does in either case give the planning commission the authority to review the use and determine whether it's an appropriate use. So as Mr. Brandt has indicated, this property has been used as a duplex for a long period of time. If you look at it, it looks like a single family home that had been converted at some point. Of course, I don't know when the house was built. And frankly, I don't have any problems or objections to the home being continued as a use for a duplex. However, the current owner has not always kept up well with his property. The code enforcement officer has had significant issues with the tenants who live in this property. And it's not always necessarily the tenant's fault. One of the biggest issues on this property is the upper tenants in the upper level. They have no outdoor storage. And so, you know, my wife and I were just two people, and yet we have a garage full of stuff. Any people who attempt to live in an apartment or a duplex or whatever, they're going to have stuff. And under the city's ordinances, we don't allow stuff to be just stored outside. Under one of our ordinances, I don't have it off the top of my head, but under the ordinances, we can require any rental in the city to have a minimum of 64 square feet of outdoor storage as a condition of allowing that to be a rental. So we might want to, as a condition of the special land use, require the installation of at least 64 square feet of outdoor storage per dwelling unit. So there's 2 dwelling units, we might want to require at least 2 sheds of 64 square feet minimum for the renters to use. That would help alleviate the outdoor storage issue that the code enforcement officers had. The second issue is that the driveway at this location is completely uncared for. It appears to be dirt. I don't know if it used to be grass or what it used to be, but it's just not been managed at all. The city, the planning commission can require that the driveway be brought up to current spec, which would require the installation of either concrete, asphalt, or gravel as a driveway. And we could require that the applicant indicate the location of the minimum required parking spots. So under the parking ordinance, the minimum number of parking spots would be 2 per dwelling unit for a total of 4. Now, the reason that I think this is important is because we want to move away in this community from people parking haphazardly on the grass wherever they feel like it. We can, in other places in the ordinance, require that they park in designated parking spots only. So those are 2 of the issues, the main issues I would have that I think Planning Commission might want to discuss prior to the special land use. But as far as the duplex use itself, I have no objections to that, and I don't think the code enforcement officer has either.
Mr. McGrath.
Are there any other properties that would be affected by a decision we make, who might fall into the, undefined category that doesn't know where they fall? They don't have a special land use, but they might think they do?
The Planning Commission has addressed 2 or 3 of these in the last couple of years that I've been here, but they've all been single-family homes, no duplexes. So this is just a little bit new. It's pretty much the same process, but it's pretty new. So after we were approached on this one, the code enforcement officer and I have tried to put together a list of homes that would require a special land use to continue their use. The difficulty is I don't know legally how to proceed with getting those people to move forward on their own for a special land use. These things come up because people try to sell their properties. The banks then contact me and say, if it burns down, can we rebuild it? And I have to say no, because under the law, they can't. We could theoretically, as a city, send out letters and notifications to every home that we've identified, and then invite them to apply for a special land use on their own time prior to any sale of the property. That would help eliminate these 1 month, 2 month waiting periods where the property owner and the new owner are in limbo trying to purchase a property. But this has only come up in the last couple of weeks, and I haven't had the chance to talk with council about it either. So it's something we're aware of. We'd like to correct into the future. We just haven't been able to do it yet.
Also, does the the code enforcer have some authority and leeway to make those changes a reality, outdoor storage and driveway, regardless of the zoning?
Uh,
I should
yes
say
and
separate
no.
from the zoning.
Yeah, yes and no. So the outdoor storage it's a big problem. And we have notified both the tenants and the property owner multiple times over the last couple of years. It just doesn't get taken care of. And the reason it doesn't get taken care of is because people have stuff and they need a place to put it. Unfortunately, this property owner never gave them a place to put it. So we can chastise them as much as we want. It's not going to change the situation. So we have been very lenient in writing tickets in this community. We'd much rather people clean up their properties. We'd much rather people just follow the law. We don't want to write tickets because that causes everybody a headache, right? But in this situation, she refused to do it. So, fortunately or unfortunately, we are now in the position of power that we can say, you know what? For the purchase cost of one shed, 2 sheds, you can sell the property. I mean, we're not preventing them from selling it, but we're the ones in a position to say special land use or not. If we continue to allow property owners to go ad infinitum without addressing these issues, the city will continue to look bad, which is the #1 complaint I get here at City Hall. So can she address it? Yeah, to a certain extent, but now's a good time to address it too.
Ms. Hamill, I noticed, I'm sorry, your picture is very small on my screen because of the way this is set up, but I saw your hand before and I hope I didn't miss it before now.
Nope.
But I'd like to give you the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I just have 2 questions. You had said, Mr. Womack, that the downstairs didn't really have an issue with it. It was just the upstairs that doesn't have any storage space. So could they potentially get away with only 1 shed and then the storage space that the downstairs tenants are allowed?
So, you know, this could be entirely dependent on the people who live in the unit and the upstairs. I don't know this, but the upstairs people might have 12 children. The downstairs might be a widow living by herself. In the future, we could have a family with 12 children move into the downstairs unit. And at that point, they're probably going to need some storage too. So we don't do these things based on the people who live there at this time. We do this based on what the property could be used for in the future. And so
to clarify my question then, am I clear that the downstairs unit actually has storage space? That the upstairs unit doesn't, that we have to make a shed for, or that they would have to make a shed for?
I honestly don't remember. Mr. Brandt, can you address the outdoor storage issue, whether that home has outdoor storage for either of the units?
I don't know for sure, but I thought there was some kind of structure, the size I don't know, kind of the south of the house, at the end of the driveway, but I don't have my access Ken out, but I thought I did see some kind of shed there. I could be wrong though, but I thought I remember seeing some type of shed.
I have a Google Maps image on my computer from the street view that shows, if you allow me to share my screen, Mr. Womack. Actually, you do too.
Sorry, I was muted that whole time.
Okay.
You can see there's a storage shed right here. And there is outdoor storage underneath the stairs, which is not acceptable. Doesn't even appear that they have any kind of curb cut. That's just right up over the asphalt. And of course, you see the brand new sidewalk. That's going to get beat up by the fact that they're driving over the sidewalk with no compressed surface on either side. This parking pad is in atrocious shape and probably does not fit 4 cars. You can actually see a lot of the storage that they have upstairs as well. That's not legally permissible. But let's see the other side, because this is another thing I noticed. So here are cars parked on the grass. I assume that's for the other unit that exists, because this guy here, he has his own little driveway area. So is the planning commission okay with cars being parked on the grass here? Do they want a real, I guess, parking pad installed? They should. They should require that there be a minimum of 2 legal parking spots per unit. That's my opinion. Does that answer your question, Mr. Conley?
I think so. I can't remember what my original question was, other than I wanted to bring up a picture so we could see what storage there was there. So I'm not sure if that's, I mean, that looks to me like that is a storage shed, but I don't know that it is because it's attached to the house. I don't know what it's
Yeah,
necessarily.
I don't know if that's a storage shed either. It looks like it's attached to the house, which it shouldn't be, but that's a different issue. So it'd be nice to know if that is accessible to the tenants or not before the planning commission rules on the matter. But again, maybe it's time we just let Mr. Brandt address what's the tenant want to do.
I'm happy to do so. Do you have any? What is the applicant's position, Mr. Brandt, on those issues?
I'm not sure on the outside storage. The parking, and again, she intends to sell it. So I mean, I assume her preference is to not do anything and sell it as is. It's under contract now, I believe. And in terms of the parking, yeah, it's a tight fit. I don't know if it seems to me that it might be tight fit, but you could get 4 vehicles on the driveway there. Yeah, the outside storage, you know, if that's an issue, again, I would say that, you know, if it's a regulatory ordinance, it's just that, and that can be enforced through the regulatory ordinance. I'm not sure what outside storage, how that's defined. I mean, I think a lot of houses have things in the outside, whether it's a grill or whatever it is, but so I don't know how outside storage is defined.
Mr. Conley, basically, and not to put words in Mr. Brandt's mouth, but you know, the planning commission has the option right now of requiring that these problems be fixed for the future tenant or future owner. The other alternative is we do what the city's been doing this whole time, which is chastise them, ask them to fix it, and then try not to write tickets unless we absolutely have to. There will be a time coming soon where we will just write tickets, and we will let the tenants and the landlords and the property owners go into court once a month, twice a month, whatever the court will allow us, until they fix the issue. You know, whether the planning commission wants to take care of it now, or if they want the city code enforcement officer to take care of it later, I don't really care. I think it's easier now because we're in a position of power to do it now. But this issue is going to be taken care of. So I guess I'll leave it in the planning commission's hands about how they want to address it.
Yeah, and I would just say that I understand municipalities always are dealing with these types of issues, but whether it's a regulatory ordinance or enforcement of a zoning ordinance, a special use permit condition is still, at the end of the day, it's an enforcement issue. If you don't have voluntary compliance, you're going to court. My experience is regulatory is easier because you don't have grandfather issues.
I guess I'm curious. The city did not go to the applicant here and demand that they seek a special land use, correct?
Yes and no. So as I indicated before, the city is doing nothing to prevent the sale or use of these properties. What's really going on is the property owners are trying to sell off their properties. They go to the mortgage company and the mortgage company then contacts me. The mortgage company wants to know if these properties are conforming or non-conforming, and I tell them based on my knowledge, because there's no special land use in place, that it's technically non-conforming. So I'm then in touch with the applicant to say, hey, if you want to, you can get a special land use, which would then make your property conforming. So I guess it's a mutual discussion about whether they should get a special land use or not. But no, the city's not forcing them to sell, and we're not encouraging them to sell. They want to sell. This just happens to be the price to get the property sold with a mortgage.
So it sounds to me like the applicant wants the city to stand behind their property and say that it's a conforming use. Am I incorrect on that?
It's,
Yes, and it will be a conforming use if the planning commission approves of the SLU.
I would say we're asking that it be a legal conforming use. Again, our position is, yeah, we don't have to come in front of the planning commission in the sense that it's grandfathered in. But again, the main thing for us is just, again, the family owner has a history. The new property owner won't, you know, the current owner moves on, and, you know, township records, memories fade, and, you know, when is this grandfathered in or not? I certainly believe it is, but it's just nice to have that, to know we're not basing it on, you know, something that's not documented. And as I said, memories fade. In terms of banks, yeah, I mean, that is an issue, but my experience is banks will require insurance. So if the place burns down and it's say a legal non-conforming use that cannot be rebuilt, the bank's covered because they have their insurance, and they may or may not care if it's rebuilt or not, because they're gonna have their insurance.
If anyone if you're relying on me to call on you, I should just let everyone know, when this screen is like this, you are about 3 pixels high on my screen. So if anyone has attempted to get my attention to ask questions, I apologize, but I can barely see you at all. So if anyone has any planning commissioners have anything they would like to add, I definitely, the floor is open for you.
I'll just add that I think that we've been afforded an opportunity to fix the enforcement issues. And likely the new owner would have the same issues, since there's literally no driveway and doesn't seem to be storage. And maybe that storage shed is available, but maybe, I don't know, we don't know anything about it. So it might be only the landlord has access to it for their own stuff. But I think that if the city's been spending time and money on sending the enforcement officer out there and struggling with the back and forth, and we have the ability to stop that. In terms of resources for the city, I don't know why we wouldn't do that, because even then sending it to court also takes time and money from the property owner and the city. So I think if we have a way to fix it now and save headache later, that we should probably do that.
I agree with that as well. It sounds like the property owner is asking for help in helping this getting sold, despite the fact that they've been asked to fix the issue multiple times and have, I don't know if refused to, but haven't to do it. It would be nice to have this fixed so that our city looks good without having clutter on the outside. I'm in full agreement with that. I don't like the clutter in our city, and I'd like to see it cleaned up. If this helps do that, that'd be wonderful.
Mr. McGrath, I didn't know if you were raising a hand earlier or not.
I was not, no.
Okay.
So one thing that we could do, Mr. Conley.
Yes.
Now, of course, Mr. Brandt is here representing Ms. Towns, who is the current property owner. I don't believe we have anybody, or at least not that I'm aware of, is representing the other side, the purchaser of the property. We could simply say special land use is approved, subject to storage and the driveways being fixed with the zoning administrator approval for those items. We could then leave that up to the seller and the buyer to fix it between them to the city's to meet with what the city expects. That way we could take care of this tonight. And then maybe there could be some cost sharing or maybe some alternatives that be worked out between the parties, the city included. Because we certainly don't want to continue this on. I know that the property owner has been waiting and waiting and waiting to sell this property. And we try to be business friendly. We try not to do things unnecessarily, but we do want to see these things fixed. So I guess that would be my recommendation at this point, is approve the special land use subject to the property meeting outdoor storage and parking requirements, and then give it to the zoning administrator for final approval at that point, if the planning commission would be okay with that.
I personally would be okay with that, but I'm curious what the rest of the planning commission thinks about that. Do we have any further discussion? Yes, Mr. McGrath.
I think that sounds good. I may have another comment after we vote, but I'm in favor.
Okay. We should probably, before we actually vote, we will make the motion properly and all of that. I'm just extending the opportunity to comment further or ask more questions to the planning commission before we go any farther.
No comment.
I'm in agreement with what you're thinking is let's get this up to code with the enforcement and then contingent on that.
And Mr. Conley, for the record, I believe that was Lori Fisk who commented no comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Having it be either the buyer or the seller, because it doesn't really matter which one. It just needs to be fixed.
Okay. I think we need a, not sure that we haven't opened a motion on this yet, have we? I believe we were just getting information about it and it kind of turned into a discussion. So I think we need a motion before we can go any farther.
Would you like a sample motion?
Sure.
Motion to approve of the special land use for, I believe it's 40 East Elm Street, subject to the installation of outdoor storage and the indication of appropriate parking with final approval by the zoning administrator.
So I will sign on to that motion as stated by Mr. Womack. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on this before we vote? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
I'm not sure who that last aye, was that for the opposed? I'm not sure who it came from.
Mr. Hall.
Okay.
Ms. Johnson, are you comfortable with the vote?
She indicated yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion carries. So, thank you.
Mr. Brandt, would you mind getting a hold of me? I'll be here tomorrow at least until noon. Otherwise, first of the year, I think we're here on the 4th. And we can kind of work out details.
Very good. Thank you.
The next thing on our agenda, new business 10D, is a motion to approve our calendar for the Planning Commission. This is on page 50, the calendar for January through December of 2021. And if you can find that on your screen on page 50, we should look at this and make sure that there's no big issues anyone can see where it would be, unlikely we could get a quorum together or anything like that before we approve it. So we're not creating a situation for ourselves that just causes problems down the road. Does anyone on the Planning Commission have any issues with the calendar as it's suggested?
Not at the moment.
Anyone without a crystal ball? I think our calendar looked pretty good last year before some stuff happened. So you never know about these things. But there's no obvious things that stick out to anyone.
Mr. Conley, I'd make it a motion to approve resolution 2020-01, a resolution to establish the regular meeting dates of the Planning Commission of the City of Cedar Springs.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is what it is.
Is Mike talking to himself or what are we doing?
I am talking to myself. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, I see the resolution is 2020-01. We're in December. Is this the first resolution of the Planning Commission?
Right
Or should
here.
it be 2021-01?
It's the first resolution of 2020.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I read it just like you had it. He needs to read it, I guess.
Okay. All in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Takes us to open discussion for issues not on the agenda. The first is correspondence. This is 11A, the 2021 marijuana special land use submission dates. This is in page 52 of your packet. Mr. Womack.
Sorry. So the marijuana submissions take up a lot of time, a lot of staff time, a lot of planning commission time. So we've established a submission date for those marijuana applications as they come in, if they want to get onto a subsequent agenda. They're special land uses under the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. They have to be publicly noticed at least 15 days ahead of time. Our local newspaper comes out on Thursday. We have to get information to them by Monday. So I think these are all the Thursday before that Monday before the Thursday before the 15 days, if that makes sense. We have those dates specifically listed so that marijuana businesses know what they're getting themselves into. And of course, the Planning Commission should be aware, based on how the first round of marijuana applications went. The City Council has ordered the Planning Commission to only review up to 2 marijuana applications at a time. So we've created a waiting list for marijuana applications. So I'm not entirely sure how much this will be of use to them, but moving forward, we'll be utilizing a waiting list. And after there's a clear spot on the Planning Commission's agenda, we will move forward any marijuana businesses that are on the waiting list onto the agenda. So we'll do the best we can to move these things forward. And yeah, hopefully we'll get some marijuana businesses open up in the city.
Sorry, now it's me. It's family disturbance there. I wanted to make sure you all didn't have to hear. Moving on, we're going to staff comments. So the city manager, do you have any comments for us tonight?
I just want to thank everybody for appearing on the 29th. This is a special meeting. I know that you guys didn't have to, which shows me that you guys take your work and are dedicated to the planning commission and the city in general very seriously. I appreciate that. I also want to welcome our new members. I do have a third application that the city council should take up in January. So we might have a new member in February. And then don't forget, we removed your January meeting from the, I think it was the 5th to the 12th. Give you a little extra time after the holiday. So other than that, I do take drinking and driving very seriously. Don't do it. Be safe for the holiday, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank you. Any comments from the city clerk?
Just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. See you all in 2021.
Thank you. And any comments from the planning commission members? Wow. Well,
Say,
if
thank you.
go
for the
ahead.
warm
I'm sorry.
welcome. I'll just say thank you for the warm welcome.
And actually, I would like to more formally, because I kind of skipped over that in the beginning. I'm still new to this running the meeting thing. So I got into my pattern and kind of noticed halfway through, I probably should have done a better job of welcoming both of you at the beginning, but thank you for taking this on. We're so happy to have other people to join us up here. This is sometimes a very difficult job. And it's, you know, if you have people with you, it's not quite as scary. So thanks for coming along. And if you have any questions along the way, please let us know if there's anything we can do to help you. Any other comments from Planning Commission? Okay. And that would move us on to the City Council representative, which is still Jerry.
Mrs. Powell is here.
You can, I suppose you can deputize her if you'd like.
Well, I'll let her escape this one. I'd like to also welcome our new members. We have one more coming on, hopefully in the next meeting after the council is appointing, if the council so desires. You know, this is a good board. We've grown a lot over the last 6 years, like Mrs. Powell has said. We all work together, agree to disagree, and we move on. But we look at what's best for our community, not for us. You know, and we appreciate you folks stepping up. As it was, we were down where we couldn't have a quorum, so we could not operate. That's how low our numbers were. So thank you for volunteering and stepping up, and welcome aboard. It is fun some days, but most days it is, but welcome. That's all.
Thank you. There is no planning consultant tonight, so I believe we can motion to adjourn. I can move to adjourn, right? I move to adjourn. I can't remember if I'm allowed to move or not for that.
I'll second your motion.
If I'm wrong, someone tell me. I don't know. Do we have to vote on adjournment? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Because I feel like I've read other things in Robert's rules.
You do not have to motion to adjourn, but you can
Okay.
if you so wish.
I don't, then let's say we're adjourned.
Okay.
I don't have a gavel.
That way you can't adjourn.